What happens when the spotlight becomes a prison? When fame becomes a cage and success feels like suffocation? Today on Light After Dark, we explore the story of someone who had it all and nearly lost everything, including her life. This is the story of Demi Lovato, a journey from Disney darling to rock bottom and ultimately to becoming one of the most authentic voices in mental health advocacy. Sometimes our greatest pain becomes our greatest purpose. Demetria Devonay Lovato was born on August 20th, 1992, in Albuquerque, New Mexico. From the outside, she seemed destined for greatness. Talented, beautiful, ambitious. The perfect recipe for stardom. But behind those bright eyes was a little girl carrying wounds that would follow her into the brightest spotlights Hollywood had to offer. Demi's childhood wasn't the fairy tale it appeared to be. Her father, Patrick, struggled with bipolar disorder and addiction, battles that would create a turbulent home environment. When her parents divorced, 7-year-old Demi watched her family fracture, not knowing she was inheriting more than just her father's musical talent. But even in childhood, music was her refuge. She could sing before she could properly speak in full sentences, and by age 6, she was already performing. It was as if the universe was preparing her voice not just to entertain, but eventually to heal, both herself and millions of others. At 15, Demi landed her breakthrough role on Disney Channel's Camp Rock alongside the Jonas Brothers. Overnight, she went from Texas teenager to international sensation. The world fell in love with her powerhouse voice and girl-next-door charm. She had everything a young person could dream of: fame, fortune, and a future that seemed limitless. But success at such a young age came with a price tag nobody talks about in the contracts. The entertainment industry can be brutal for adults. Imagine being a teenager trying to navigate it while your brain is still developing. Your identity is still forming, and every mistake is documented by cameras. Demi was thrust into a world of impossible standards, constant scrutiny, and relentless pressure to be perfect. The bullying started early. Online and offline, people criticized everything about her: her appearance, her weight, her performances. In interviews, she later revealed how cruel comments about her being fat would send her spiraling. At an age when most teenagers are worried about homework and crushes, Demi was reading headlines analyzing every pound she gained or lost. But the external pressure was nothing compared to the internal storm brewing. Mental health challenges don't care about your bank account or your number of followers. In fact, fame often makes them worse, providing more triggers and fewer genuine support systems. By 2010, at just 18 years old, Demi was exhibiting concerning behaviors. She began cutting herself as a way to cope with emotional pain, a secret she kept hidden beneath long sleeves and forced smiles. She developed an eating disorder, swinging between periods of restriction and binge eating. Food became both her enemy and her comfort. The breaking point came during the Jonas Brothers tour. Reports emerged of an altercation with a backup dancer. But the real story was much deeper. Demi was drowning, and the incident was just the moment when she could no longer keep her head above water. On November 1st, 2010, Demi made the brave decision to cancel the remainder of the tour and enter treatment. At 18, she was checking into rehab, not for the first time she'd struggle with these demons, but for the first time she'd admit she needed help fighting them. Timberline Knolls Treatment Center in Illinois became Demi's first real sanctuary in years. For 3 months, away from cameras and expectations, she began the hardest work of her life, not performing for others, but discovering who she really was beneath the pain. In treatment, Demi received several life-changing diagnoses. She learned she had bipolar disorder, the same condition her father had struggled with. Suddenly, years of extreme emotional highs and devastating lows made sense. She wasn't broken or weak. Her brain was wired differently, and with proper treatment, she could learn to manage it. Bipolar disorder affects millions of people worldwide, but it's particularly challenging for young people in high-pressure environments. The manic episodes can feel like superpower, unlimited energy, creativity, and confidence. But they're followed by crushing depressive episodes that can make getting out of bed feel impossible. When Demi emerged from treatment in early 2011, she made a decision that would define the rest of her career. She chose radical honesty. Instead of hiding her struggles, she began talking openly about mental health, eating disorders, and self-harm. This was revolutionary for a young celebrity in 2011. Her song, Skyscraper, became an anthem for anyone who had ever felt broken. The lyrics, "You can take everything I have. You can break everything I am, like I'm made of glass, like I'm made of paper. Go on and try to tear me down. I will be rising from the ground like a skyscraper," resonated with millions who were fighting their own battles. But recovery isn't a straight line. It's not a mountain you climb once, and then you're at the top forever. For Demi, it would be more like learning to surf, constantly adjusting your balance as new waves come. For several years, Demi appeared to be thriving. She was touring, recording, judging on The X Factor, and becoming increasingly vocal about mental health advocacy. She was sober, she was speaking her truth, and she was helping others feel less alone in their struggles. She partnered with mental health organizations, spoke at events, and used her platform to destigmatize therapy and medication. Demi was becoming exactly what she needed when she was younger, a successful person talking openly about mental health challenges. Her 2017 documentary, Simply Complicated, gave fans an unprecedented look into her ongoing struggles and recovery. She talked about the daily work of staying healthy, the importance of her support system, and how her experiences had given her life purpose. But behind the scenes, the pressure was building again. The constant work of recovery, combined with the demands of a high-profile career, was taking its toll. Demi later revealed that she had started struggling with substances again, initially in secret. In June 2018, she released the song Sober, a heartbreaking admission that she had relapsed. The lyrics, "I'm sorry that I'm here again, I promise I'll get help," were a public confession that her recovery had hit another roadblock. Just 1 month later, on July 24, 2018, Demi was found unconscious in her Hollywood Hills home, the victim of an apparent overdose. She was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where she spent nearly 2 weeks fighting for her life. The world held its breath. This wasn't just another celebrity overdose story. This was someone who had been a beacon of hope for so many people struggling with similar issues. If Demi couldn't make it, what did that mean for everyone else fighting the same battles? The overdose left Demi with more than just physical scars. She suffered 3 strokes, a heart attack, and brain damage that affected her vision. Doctors told her family to say their goodbyes, unsure if she would survive. When she did wake up, she couldn't see clearly and had to relearn basic functions. But perhaps even more devastating than the physical damage was the emotional reckoning that followed. Demi had to confront the reality that her approach to recovery needed to change. She couldn't just will herself better, and she couldn't do it alone. This time, treatment was different. Instead of a 3-month stay, Demi committed to longer-term intensive therapy. She had to address not just her substance use, but the underlying trauma that had been driving her pain for decades. Trauma-informed therapy helped Demi understand how childhood experiences had shaped her coping mechanisms. The bullying, the family instability, the early exposure to industry pressures, all of these had created patterns in her brain that needed to be rewired, not just suppressed. She also engaged in extensive family therapy, working to heal relationships that had been strained by years of addiction and mental health struggles. Recovery isn't just an individual journey. It affects everyone who loves the person struggling. For the first time, Demi also explored spirituality as a component of her healing. She began practicing meditation, spending time in nature, and connecting with something larger than herself. This wasn't about religion necessarily, but about finding meaning and purpose beyond the chaos of fame. When Demi returned to the public eye in January 2020 with a powerful Grammy performance of Anyone, a song written just days before her overdose, something was different. Her voice was stronger, rawer, more authentic than ever before. The performance was electric, emotional, and healing, both for Demi and for everyone watching. She wasn't just singing, she was sharing her story in the most vulnerable way possible. The standing ovation wasn't just for her vocal ability, it was for her courage. In the years following, Demi's approach to sharing her story evolved. She became more nuanced in her advocacy, acknowledging that recovery looks different for everyone and that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to healing. Her 2021 documentary series, Dancing with the Devil, provided an unflinching look at her overdose and recovery. Unlike many celebrity redemption narratives, this wasn't sanitized or simplified. She talked about the reality of brain damage, the ongoing nature of recovery, and the complexity of healing from trauma. Demi also began exploring and sharing her gender identity, coming out as non-binary and later as pansexual. This wasn't separate from her recovery journey, it was part of it. Healing meant being authentic about all aspects of who she was, not just the parts that were publicly acceptable. Her advocacy work took on new depth and sophistication. Instead of just sharing her story, she began amplifying other voices, funding mental health resources, and working to change policy around mental health care access. Musically, Demi's work became more experimental and personal. Albums like Holy F.A. Seek showed an artist unafraid to be angry, complex, and imperfect. This wasn't the polished Disney star or even the recovery advocate. This was a full human being, messy and real and powerful. Today, Demi Lovato represents something rare in celebrity culture: authentic complexity. She doesn't pretend to have all the answers, and she doesn't sell her recovery as a simple success story. Instead, she models what it looks like to be a work in progress, committed to growth and healing. Her impact extends far beyond entertainment. Mental health professionals cite the Demi effect, the increase in young people seeking treatment after she shared her story. She's helped normalize conversations about therapy, medication, and the ongoing nature of mental health care. But perhaps most importantly, she's shown that hitting rock bottom doesn't mean staying there. That relapse doesn't mean failure. That healing isn't linear, and that's okay. In recent interviews, Demi talks about finding peace with the person she's becoming. She's no longer trying to be perfect or to fit into anyone else's idea of what her story should look like. She's just trying to be honest, to be helpful, and to be human. Her performances now carry a different energy, not the desperate need to prove herself, but the joy of someone who knows they've survived their darkest moments and can find light even in difficulty. Demi Lovato's story reminds us that transformation isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming more fully yourself. It's about facing the parts of your story that hurt and finding ways to integrate them into a life of meaning and purpose. If you're struggling with mental health, eating disorders, or substance use, please know that help is available. Treatment works, recovery is possible, and your story isn't over. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 988. The National Eating Disorders Association helpline is 1-800-931-2237. You don't have to fight alone. As Demi once said, every day that you fight, you get stronger. And with that strength, you can help others find theirs. Your darkest moments don't define you. How you choose to move forward from them does. This has been Light After Dark. Thank you for joining us on this journey from darkness to light, from breakdown to breakthrough. Remember, the night is darkest just before the dawn, and your dawn is coming. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to Light After Dark for more stories of transformation and hope. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that recovery is possible. And let us know in the comments, whose story should we tell next? Remember, seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Your story matters, and you matter.